With the release of Onyx's Lair and the approaching Master Tour, the top players have been encouraged to find the best decks as fast as possible, and they have not disappointed. Welcome to another episode of Top of the Ladder, where we go over this week's best decks. Before I jump into this video, I would like to thank my sponsors. Without your help, this video would simply not be possible. Hello everyone, my name is John, and did you know that between the mini set releasing and the Master Tour, we had a total of 52 hours to prepare before the Master Tour started. At the time you are watching this, Master Tour Onyx's Lair is in full force, and I bet that there are a lot of exciting decks in that tournament. But since I will be competing in that myself, I had to record this ahead of time and in just the hours before the Master Tour starts. So while I won't cover any Master Tour decks in this video, next week I'll probably make a whole dedicated episode just for the things that came out of the Master Tour. So look forward to that. That being said, there is one lineup I got access to, and that would be, well, my own. So I will be going over that slightly by the end of the video. If you are tired of all the Kazakusan Druids on ladder, you do not want to miss that. First off, let us address the big elephant in the room, or should I say big dragon maybe. Kazakusan Druid has been the absolute first top deck to appear on Onyx's Lair. You see both Fino and Habu Gabu, with just within hours of the expansion releasing, posting really good baselines for what a Kazakusan Druid could look like. And since then, I think all of us can say that we've seen a lot of it on ladder. But that's not the only way you can build a deck. We see players like Attila Leon, sorry for pronunciation, and Slugcat playing a more token-focused variant of the deck, while utilizing cards like Glowfly Swarm and Arbor Up to give your deck a lot of great tools to handle the mirror matchup. The jury's still out on what the best type of build for Kazakusan Druid is, but this is for sure the first deck to beat coming out of the expansion. And while we're already talking about Kazakusan, let's talk about another deck for you control lovers out there. Both Theo and Kibler have been posting about Kazakusan Priests, which is another Kazakusan deck, but instead of ramping up to it and playing it really quickly, you control the board until you can get to your huge payoff dragon and play it. There's a lot of notable additions to this deck from the new mini set. You have first the Horn, you got Duskbreaker 2.0, and Raidbox Onyxia. All of these being amazing cards that really gave Priests a huge necessary boost. This might sound like, oh, it's just all Kazakusan decks, I don't want to play Hearthstone. But don't worry, there are plenty of more. For example, No Way posted a really interesting list, which Libram Brute we're all pretty familiar with at this point. But this new list utilizes, well, Wisps and Blood Imp. No, not Blood Imp. Called Weak Imp? I don't have the card in front of me. Desk Imp. What made this archetype possible playing these cards is the new card Razorglaive Sentinel. Not only can you use this card to complete your quest, but if you play this after your quest completion, you are very quickly playing your whole deck and killing them with Lion's Frenzy. I've actually heard from quite a lot of other pro players and friends that they've had quite some success with this list, and it can probably still go through quite a lot of refinement. So if you're a Demon Hunter fan, I would advise to give this one a try. For you Paladin or midrange lovers out there, Sharon has been playing Libram Paladin to pretty good success, getting a huge boost from the release of Bullet Bunker, a 1/5 free drop that you can put your buff spells on is incredibly good for a deck that was mainly looking good free drops. A card that I had success with when I tried Paladin was also Avenger. The card really gives you a great way to raise combo decks without having to draw Cariel. So I think it fits the deck. If I were to cut something, I'd probably cut the Battlegrounds Battlemaster and Alliance Bannerman for 2 copies of Stormwind Avenger. But that's just something you could try. Sharon's list looks really solid as well, and you can't really go wrong with it. Dark Hellscream, great content creator who you should check out, is proving to us that the old things still work. reaching Legend in Asia with no other deck than Burn Shaman. What's interesting to note here is that since he's playing on Asia, he doesn't have Dust for Brukan, and the deck works just as well without it. So for those of you out there on a budget, I think that this Shaman could be a great choice for you to climb with. Since there is not much data to go off, and most notable players are probably keeping pretty quiet about the good decks they find, we really don't have too much to work with this week, I'm afraid. We also, on the Vicious Syndicate and the HSReplay, those sites haven't either had enough time to come up with any conclusive data. So sadly, I have to leave out that segment for this episode, but next week we're gonna go back in full force and look at all of the data coming in. One thing we can look at though from HSReplay is the meta sorted from, well, the last day in Legend Top 1000. We can only watch it from the metagame tab, so sadly we don't have specific lists for them, but we can see a little bit of what's rising to the top. Here we see Beast Druid, Aggro Shadow Priest, Burn Shaman, and Poison Rogue, all aggressive decks being at the top, which makes sense because these decks kind of prey on the unrefined decks that are being experimented with now. I expect these decks to go down in win rate as the meta progresses, but for now, these are some of the top decks. We also see, well, the new Kazakusan Druid actually being pretty far from the top, but still one of the best performers. We see Charge Warrior, Quest Shaman, and Control Warrior still being good shape. The Control Warrior utilizing new cards like Kazakusan. We have the OTK Warrior that utilizes the Galvan Guard to the front combo package. And then there's this new Warrior that just plays the new 4/5 Dragon, Kazakusan, and Onyxia as their only minions in their deck, and just try and grind the game out until they get good Kazakusan. What some people would call an old school control deck. That being said, there is one last thing we can look at. That is my lineup for the Master Tour that I decided to bring. So to those of you that has followed me in the competitive scene, might be pretty surprised to see me bring this. But the lineup I decided to bring to the Master Tour is Shadow Priest, Face Hunter, Aggro Druid, and Burn Shaman. This might not be the fanciest or coolest lineup. What I figured is that I worked my ass off to try and find the optimal decks in these 52 hours we had leading up to the Master Tour. And you know what? Even though I'm accompanied by some of the best players by my side that can help me out, I didn't really feel like we found anything groundbreaking. Or I feel like we were on the edge of it, but there just wasn't enough time. So if one of the best practice groups in the entire world couldn't find anything optimal, then odds are that not many others did either. So I thought this would be a great Master Tour to just go faces. The idea of the lineup is that with how popular Kazakusan Druid has been in the first few days, probably a lot of players are gonna want to bring it because, well, it's everywhere, it has to be good. But there are actually a lot of decks that has a good matchup versus it. It's just not that they're very represented on the top of ladder. The aggro decks, like the decks I have in my lineup, are actually, in fact, has amazing matchup against Kazakusan Druid. My lineup is built to prey on that deck, and if you want to take this to ladder, each of these 4 decks are great choices if you want to win against Druid. Not only that, but they also have good matchups into things like Handlock or Quest Rogue, and there's just a lot of things going for these decks, I think, in the current meta. Decks that you want to try to avoid queuing into, though, is Control Warrior, Owlock, Fell DH, and Burn Shaman yourself. All these matchups can be pretty rough, and if you see these decks overrepresented, then you might want to stay away from these decks. But they're fast, they're efficient, and they really beat up on some of the top decks right now, so I recommend them. Usually this lineup is a bit of like a desperate last attempt because nothing else works, but I gotta say that I'm actually really behind this choice for this Master Tour. I think that if there was ever a lineup where you should just go full aggro, this would be the one. So that's why I decided to bring this. If any of these decks look like you aggro player style, I can approve of each of these lists being very good. Well, that's about it for this video. Thank you all for watching. Keep in mind when you look at these decks that we don't have the biggest sample size right now, and the list probably still need to go through quite a bit of refinement. That being said, let me know what you think of these decks in the comment section below. Let me know if you have success with any of these decks, or just general feedback on what you think about the video. I'll I'll see you next week for another episode. Thanks for watching. Bye.